Welcome to another installment of Movie Madness. I am your co-host with the most, Dan, but you want to talk about the mostest is the man straight across the table, Mr. Kyle Nolan, I guess, a.k.a. The Independent. I'm not quite sure what that means.
Sure, why not?
Oh, sure.
Are you the Independent?
I'll take it.
Why are you the Independent?
Because any other nickname probably would be really bad, so I'll just take the Independent.
Is it because of independent film, independent politics?
I didn't come up with it, so I don't know.
Well,
I'm assuming that's why.
you know, when it comes to neck flop, you really never know. You really never
I don't
know.
like that word, fop.
Why is that?
It just sounds bad.
Yeah.
Fop.
What do you think, a flop?
Yeah. It sounds like Foley for like a comic book when someone gets hit. Fop.
What about the neck flop poop
Neck Family Podcast?
pool party?
Oh.
See, there you
Even
go.
worse.
You're learning. Well, we have screened 2 new films recently, believe it or not, in various degrees of groupings, but that's all right.
Yes.
Which one would you like to discuss first? I know you have deep feelings about both, because you're a deep man.
I have more deep feelings about Midsummer, but
Well, let's go with that one then.
okay. You talk about what you thought about it first.
It held my interest the whole time. It was kind of a tense movie, I'd say, but like a lot of the A24 movies, it's a very confusing movie to me. It feels like the movie wasn't supposed to end when it did, like a lot of them, and I'm left wondering, what did I just watch? But like I said, I enjoyed what they presented. I just would have come up with maybe a different ending.
Yeah, I really personally like confusing, I guess, like challenging would be the way I put it. Challenging movies
It challenged you.
that don't give you like all the answers at first. You can't. It's subtle. It's more subtle. You have to read into it and really pay attention. It doesn't give you everything on face value, which is like what you're saying a lot of the A24 movies do, which I really respect, which is why a lot of their stuff is pretty good. So
You have a lot of respect for A24.
yeah, I mean, the public hears about the good stuff, and there's plenty of stuff they do that is just bad, but you don't hear about it because it doesn't get as big of an ad budget. So the stuff that does, reach above the surface into like the mainstream, I guess, is usually pretty good for the most part that I've seen. So yeah, I really like the subtle hinting kind of gets better on each viewing sort of movie, and that's like what Ari Aster's 2 movies, this and Hereditary, are really good at doing. I've seen Hereditary like 2 or 3 times, and each time there's so much he puts in there that is hinting towards like the ending and like what's to come that you can't pick up in the first time because you don't know how it ends, but on the second time it's like, oh, that makes so much sense. And I'm assuming there's going to be a ton of that when I see Midsummer again, but I've only seen it once, so.
Unlike Connor Smith, I believe he's watching it for the 3rd time tonight, which is why he
Really?
isn't with us. That could be the reason. I know
say,
in the limousine last night on the way back we discussed
The limousine, yeah.
the limousine, correct. A lot of the A24 films are like that, but I'll tell you this, every time I see the A24 logo, even if it's a movie I may have no or mild interest in, it makes me want to see it that much more. I think they've done a good
They're
a good job presenting movies that are really interesting, but again, to me, maybe I'm not watching them enough.
I think it's more that they are giving directors with visions a platform and a budget to make their movies where other studios wouldn't. They are a lot more willing to give risky projects funding. Something like Midsummer would not be produced by like Sony or Paramount and stuff. They have an established audience that's starting to kind of break into the mainstream enough where they can get a big enough budget to film these artsy kind of movies. So
that was considered an artsy movie, Midsummer.
Yeah, definitely.
Really?
Yeah,
Okay.
I think so. There's a lot of artful presentation in it. Like the whole reason I like these I guess movies, or just the things I like, is not what happens but how it happens. It's the way they show it. Because like if you say, oh, there's a ritual scene, it's like, okay, but like it's, for me, it's the way they show it and like the atmosphere, and how it's not just the fact that there's a ritual scene, it's just how he puts it all together and shows it. That's what really interests me. So like there are scenes in this movie where given to any other director it would just be like a joke, but he's really talented, so he knows how to make it really, I wrote down, presents goofy concepts in serious, impactful ways. So like especially that scene at towards the end with a lot of nudity.
Yeah, well, I heard someone in the
see,
theater laughing. I'm not going to say who it was, though.
See, a lot of other directors would make that scene unintentionally a joke because they don't know how to really create atmosphere, but he's really good at like really making that a disturbing kind of surreal experience.
It was disturbing.
Yeah, exactly. He's really good at he's really good at showing or knows what to show when knows what to show, when to show, and how much to show. So like are we getting the spoilers?
Why not?
So in the
I don't think
scene
we're going to offend anyone.
in the
No
scene
one else is here.
in the scene where the old couple, falls to their death, they at first you don't see like the guts, but then like you'll see that super high angle shot of his face or of her face coming off the rock, and you see her face just decimated. It's like this quick flash, and it's like, oh shit. Like he knows
When the body went backwards, you
yeah,
mean?
yeah, and you see
That
her
was
face
good, yeah.
because you see it just for a little bit, and that's all
It's
you
only a
need.
split second,
and it gives
yep.
you like a shock because you're like, so like any other, he knows that less is more. I mean, you get to see the close-ups later, but like just for that scene.
And you know what's funny? I thought maybe to some extent they overdid it hitting the guy in the head.
Yeah, I can see where you're coming from.
Because it was just, I thought it was effective with the old lady because
Yeah.
it was really quick. With the old,
Yeah.
after a couple, once or twice, but they kept going with it.
I think the majority.
opinion.
Yeah, the majority of what they do is really subtle, and there are a few moments like that that aren't very subtle. Like when they showed the paintings of like the female parts and like the hairs and the, going to the drink. There was this whole like this panning shot that showed all these like artistic.
In the bedroom where they were all
No. It
sleeping,
was outside. It was this rendition. These like kind of old school paintings of like the rituals they do, which includes like the good old the pubes and the drink. Remember when he takes the hair out of like the cake? It's like, oh, is it a pube?
I may have been in the restroom for that one.
Maybe, but
I missed probably 5 minutes.
so
of it.
they showed like paintings of like what they do and what the ritual is, which is like hinted at, a ton. But then when he takes it out, like for me, this is really nitpicky. Overall, I really love the movie, but it's might as well point out little tiny things. He goes, "Oh, is that a pube?" But it's like, him showing it is all I needed. You didn't need to like say it. So like that's one tiny little example of like something not being as subtle as I would have liked. But overall, everything is really subtle, and like the way the thing Connor mentioned, how the her boyfriend's friend with the long hair that brought them there.
Yeah.
He was talking to her about how his parents died in a fire, and like later you realize that's what they do at the end of the ritual. They they pick people to sacrifice. So it's like little things like that is what
So
I
at
really
some
like.
point, the guy with the beard that brought them there, his parents were old enough to have gone through that ritual and die?
Yeah, that's what
Oh,
he's
okay.
hinting.
Okay.
And there's a ton of like really cool kind of looks that everyone gives each other of the people who know what's happening and the people who don't. So I'm kind of jumping all over the place, but the music throughout the entire thing. What do you think about the music?
It was perfect for it. Perfect fit.
So especially that ending song. This and Hereditary have like, for some reason, he has a really great sense of like how to end a movie with a tone.
Mm-hmm.
He has this at the end of Hereditary. It's this similar like, you saw it, right?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So remember, like they're in he's in like the bed with the mother with their heads chopped off, and it's like this glistening like euphoric like opera, but it's showing this like horrific like awful thing, but it's this cool like contrast. He does it again in this where it's like this uplifting like
The wrong soundtrack could have taken the movie in the wrong direction.
exactly. He does. That's what he knows how to do really well. It's tone.
It kept the soundtrack kept it as serious as it needed to be,
Yeah.
in my opinion.
Speaking of tone, the opening 5 minutes of this movie I thought were perfect. I loved the opening. It's one of the best openings
Why?
I've seen because everything.
Because it really,
It set it up. It
You
set
go
everything
first.
up perfectly. It immediately establishes like how realistically these people are interacting when she calls her boyfriend and her friends are like smoking weed in the background, and they're like you can hear them like goofing to like the boyfriend character. Like that stuff is like so on the nose of like realism. Like it's not overdoing it, but that's what would actually I feel like would happen, and like showing the relationship dynamic. When he hangs up and all of his friends are like, oh, you got to break up with her. It establishes that perfectly. It establishes, her family dying in that horrific way. It shows the family who you think is asleep at first and you realize they're actually dead. So, like, when I talk about, like, how he shows things, it's that type of thing where he shows the family but you don't know that they're dead until after, and it gives you that sense of, like, oh, shit, like, that's what he was meant. he meant to show. And yeah, that shot of her on the phone where it's just that one long shot, which is like, and then it establishes.
Oh, wait a minute. This could be another spoiler.
Steve
I'll let
updated
you
us.
open it.
He yeah, that one long shot of her talking to her boyfriend on the phone, it just shows like how great of an actor she is. So it gives you all the things that you need, that I think the movie did well, like right in the first 5 minutes. It establishes everything like perfectly.
Well, I look at it like this, and I thought it was good, but in reality, did you even really need that opening?
Oh yeah,
Why?
because it establishes everything that she's going throughout the rest of the movie. That the whole trauma of her dealing with her family comes up repeatedly when she's taking the mushrooms, and
All right, fair enough.
psychedelics, they trigger like emotional trauma, and she has to deal with that.
Could they have done without the conflict between the boyfriend and girlfriend?
No,
Did
because
add
that
anything?
was a huge part of the whole movie. Their dynamic and their animosity.
Early on, sure, but even...
No, but throughout the movie, like they take these little jabs at each other, and
Okay,
just
yeah,
the
that's
tension.
true. That's true.
And the whole reason that the hidden society is like pulling the strings is to make her, look through the door hole and see that, so she doesn't like him. So that's why she decides to sacrifice him at the end. They're all pulling the strings to make this happen. So without that relationship being kind of wonky,
Okay.
they wouldn't be able to kind of do what they wanted to do with the ritual.
Well, a good movie, you can look at it backwards and forwards, and I think it makes sense.
Yeah,
either way.
exactly.
And this one, it seems to.
Mm-hmm. So,
Like I said, I don't know if I'd rush out to buy it on DVD, but
Mm-hmm.
if I saw it on HBO or one of those types of channels, I'd probably watch
Yeah.
it again. Would you?
oh yeah, I'm 100% going to watch it at least a few more times.
What would
It's
you-
the type of movie that begs for that. Definitely.
What would you give it on a scale of 1 to 10?
I'd give it an 8.
I would say about a 7. So we're pretty close
Yeah,
on that.
yeah.
So we both really liked it.
Yeah, I think I just have a personal bias towards these kind of movies with like that specific tone, and obviously I loved Hereditary, so I knew
I liked
it was going to be at
Hereditary
least
more.
good because I already liked his previous movie, so I had like a bias, I guess, going into it. But another thing is that he's great at cinematography. All of these shots are super creative, and like the shot of the car, the view of the car, then it goes upside down, and then it morphs. Then
I
it
like
morphs
that.
like
That
sideways.
was great. Yeah.
Like so,
yeah,
it
that
creates
was really good.
It creates that like I wrote down
To get off topic from this movie for a second, where we've mentioned Hereditary a few times, did you
Yeah.
ever see the TV show that the father and the son starred in together from Hereditary?
Naked Brothers Band?
It's called In Treatment on HBO. Was it HBO? I think it's HBO.
No, I didn't know about that. I know
Very good.
Nat Wolf. No, Alex Wolf. There's Alex Wolf and Nat Wolf, the two brothers.
I remember the son's last name is Wolf.
Yeah, they were both in the show when I was a kid called the Naked Brothers Band. It was like a Nickelodeon show. So that's what I know them from when I was a kid.
Do you remember the actor's name? The Irish guy? In Hereditary?
The dad?
Yeah.
Nah, I don't remember his name.
Well, he was the psychiatrist on the show, and
Oh, he's also a psychiatrist in Hereditary. That's
right.
interesting.
And for at least one of the seasons, the son in Hereditary was his son on In Treatment. It was a unique concept, and I know you kind of like unique things if you're not familiar with it.
Mm-hmm.
There would be, it would run for 9 weeks, but instead of 1 episode a week, it would be 5 episodes a week.
Oh,
Or
geez.
it varied depending upon the season.
How
So
long were they?
about a half an hour each, and he'd have one patient each day. So it was almost like a work week for him. He'd have Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and he'd have the same patients on those days.
That's cool.
Then one season it morphed into he was going to a psychiatrist. You'd see what the psychiatrist was like, trying to interact with another shrink, talking about these other losers that he had coming into his office. If you have On Demand, I think that's one you might really
Sounds
like.
interesting, yeah.
Do you have HBO?
I do not.
Well, I know someone that might help you out with the passcode, but what are you going to do? What are you going to do? Anyway, very good show, and I liked Hereditary more than
I think
Midsummer.
Hereditary is a lot more simple in the concept.
Well, you know me. I'm a simple kind of guy.
And I think there are aspects about this movie that I think is better than Hereditary, and also vice versa. There are things about Hereditary that are better than this. So I think I give them the same rating out of 10. I think they're both like 8 out of 10. So I'm feeling around equal, but I would have to see Midsummer like 1 or 2 more times to really like solidify my opinion.
Hereditary was rough because they went low with the kid dying, and I think.
What do you mean, low? That
Well,
was like the best part of the movie.
No, I'm not saying it necessarily in a bad way, but I think if you're going to go the route of having a kid die, That's kind of rough in any form of entertainment.
That's
so I
the
I
point.
think it made it even more dark.
Yeah, I think that was
Hereditary,
the
yeah.
intention, was to show the most disturbing thing possible and just have her die out of nowhere.
I didn't like her though, so I didn't. I wasn't too upset.
So there you go. Everyone wins. So like he does.
But just the scene when the kid was sitting up in his room the next morning, and the mother went out to the car.
Oh, and you can
that
hear her
was-
screaming.
Yeah.
And then it cuts to her face on the road with
Yeah,
like the maggots.
yeah,
that was
that
like,
was-
holy shit.
That was cool.
That's one of the things I wrote down with the similarities in between this, like
Mm-hmm.
hard cut to like super graphic gory thing just out of nowhere. Like that's something that he did really cool. And there are a few things in terms of similarities between this, with characters being in a situation where someone else is pulling the strings and they're just fucked from the start and there's nothing they can do about it. Like in Hereditary, there was a destiny that, you know, they were gonna give Payman the new host, and that was like they had no way of getting out of that, and that's, you know, they got obviously fucked over in the end. And the same thing with this, like they went there and these people planned to do something to him, and that's what they ended up doing. Like the concept of like just having no control over what's going on, and then you're just fucked from the start. And also past trauma of a main character, like Toni Collette's character had all the mental illness in her past, and then this character had her whole family dying. So he has these little, which isn't necessarily a bad thing. It's just kind of trademarks that I guess he's likes to do so far in his movies. So I could definitely pick up on those. So, and then
What other movies has he done other than these two?
that's it.
That's it.
Yeah.
Really?
Hereditary's for a first movie, like
Yeah.
Hereditary is really impressive.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Well, I'm even more impressed with it now.
I think from a technical aspect, this one's better. There are a few like budgetary technical things in Hereditary that I thought stood out.
Really?
Like there's the scene where she goes up in the attic to find her mom's dead body, and there's the flies everywhere. And the flies look like awful. It looks like this like iMovie overlay of just these black dots flying around, and doesn't look real at all. I can just
was
imagine
lousy
her.
CGI,
I can just
you
her.
mean?
Yeah, she's like swatting, and it's like she's just swatting at nothing. Like the flies look super fake, and like, but like he has a bigger budget in this, so there wasn't any
Yeah.
of that, which was so much better. And
Well, I look forward to see what he has coming next. Any idea what that might be?
hopefully another horror movie. I don't know, or whatever.
Well,
if it's not,
you
then
haven't scoured the net looking for scoops.
what?
You have not looked online to get some scoops.
Well,
what's next for him, or no?
It's. I don't think anything's been announced because this movie's pretty new.
Well, but how long's that movie been done for?
I don't know.
It's probably been in the can for a bit.
I don't know.
Ready to
Whatever
go.
he releases next, I'll be first in line. Even though I saw this movie like 3 weeks later, but you know,
And you saw it with other people.
I know, which was annoying, but
You
whatever.
were-
It was worth it. I
Your
think.
skin was crawling
Yeah,
with the
there was
random
definitely
scum that was in the movie theater.
the laughter definitely pissed me off, but it didn't ruin my experience completely. I was able to focus more.
When they went in for the sex scene with all those old women nude,
Yeah,
I may have been one of the people.
I didn't hear you though. That's the thing.
Oh, well, that's good.
If
then.
if you were, then you were quiet enough where everyone else didn't really give a shit. I just feel, yeah, like people.
I wasn't expecting that.
Yeah. That
And
was-
it reminded me of, I think there's an old ass in Hereditary, isn't there?
Yeah, there's a
Some
few
old- yeah,
nude
some old-
cultist
Towards
members.
the end, there's some.
Yeah. Catches you off guard. It's like,
Somehow
whoa.
they're just wandering around the house. I don't know how they got in, but they're nude.
Demons, that's why.
Was that what they were supposed to be at the end of Hereditary?
No,
weren't
they were the cultist members.
So they were real human beings.
Yeah.
Okay.
They were just part of the whole ceremony of giving Payman the host.
Not like the other A24 movie that brought me great confusion, The Witch.
Yeah.
Or was it Witch or Witches?
The Witch.
The Witch.
Mm.
I remember. I'll tell you, you talk about one that you like better after the first viewing. That's when I watched that one in your favorite cinema, Revere, on a Sunday afternoon, filled with assorted human beings.
Gotcha.
Like many of them, when it was done, I said, "What the fuck is this?"
You see, I think
I don't get it.
I think the reason that we think differently of this is that you're more focused on like the plot and what happens and like what just from a very basic standpoint, like what happens to the characters. Where for me, it's more about like the presentation and the atmosphere and like how everything is just shown as this kind of like this sequence, and it's more like less for me. I focus less on like the just what is happening on the face value and more like just how, like I said, how he shows it, like how the music and that ending is so great, and like the way the whole slow pan of like her going up to the witches and they start floating. It's just this cool, really visually creative concept that I like. It's more like I'm more impressed by that stuff, where I think you were kind of a no door because it didn't like satisfy like the plot as much.
Do I take it too serious?
I think I take it a lot more seriously, and so.
You take it more serious.
Oh yeah, I mean, I think so. I don't know.
All right. Well, I don't know what it is with A24.
I get
Baby
easily
died
invested.
in that one too.
Yeah, true.
I mean, what is it? Dead babies.
It's effective.
Creepy background soundtrack. I think all the soundtracks are great. The visual presentation isn't your typical colored look. I think.
Yeah,
whether you
it's
look at
better. It's not your typical because it's people with actual talent and color grading, not
I don't
just
know
a
what
studio.
kind of a tint they're doing, but I mean, whether you look at from A24 Midsummer, whether you look at Hereditary, whether you look at It Comes at Night,
Good
whether you
Time.
look at Witches, Good Time. What was that one?
That's the one with Robert Pattinson from 2017, which I actually think you would like.
What's it about?
It's about two brothers who rob a bank and something goes terribly wrong. So one of
Oh,
them.
and one of them slow? I did see that.
Yeah,
I didn't know that was an A24.
it is.
Really? Okay.
Yeah. I really love that movie, and that's
I don't remember disliking it, but I don't remember thinking it was anything spectacular.
Mhm.
That was a DVD rental. That was not
Yeah.
in theater.
I just love Robert Pattinson's performance in that. I think he's like perfect. He really transforms.
For some reason, I remember the counselor that came out to get the slow one in the beginning. I
Mhm.
don't know why that scene stands out to me as I think back to it now, but
Funny looking dude, I remember. Yeah.
who, the counselor or
Yeah.
the special brother?
You know, the special brother is one of the directors.
Is he special?
No.
Oh, he's not special.
I know,
Oh,
right?
okay.
Isn't that insane?
I didn't know either way.
Exactly. He pulls it off perfectly.
He was one of the directors of
Good Time.
Good Time?
Yeah.
Oh,
The
really?
two brothers, the Safdie brothers, and he's one of them.
My DVD recorder broke. I'm probably one of the last people on the planet that had the actual, not streaming package from Netflix, but I'd get the discs in the mail.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and I don't
Interesting.
think too many people do that anymore,
No.
but I liked it.
Yeah.
I need a new DVD
I did
player.
that like when I was a kid, before the streaming thing.
I think I've had it since 2004.
Dang. They've been around that long?
Yeah.
Wow.
The streaming hasn't, but as far as being able to get the
Yeah,
discs in
yeah.
the mail, at one point, believe it or not, and this is kind of maybe a depressing story, but because for about a year, I really didn't get out of bed much after I first became physically challenged, as we'll call it respectfully on this
Gotcha.
show. I had, guess how many out at a time you could get?
What?
Guess how many discs you could take out at one time?
1.
6.
Oh.
60, and I mean, I hoard out Netflix with those 6 at a time like you wouldn't believe. The
I
mailman
would
every
too.
day had those little envelopes
Boom,
coming.
boom, boom,
I
boom.
like the little envelopes.
Yeah.
You know what I
I,
didn't
I like physical media. That's why I collect Blu-rays, but like sometimes just, streaming on Netflix is a little easier.
A little easier. All right.
Yeah.
Well, I still think the collection of movies on Netflix is garbage. They have a couple on there, but now they want to put their own
I
shows
think-
on.
The issue is there's a ton of great stuff. You just have to search for it. You gotta dig. It's not going to be in the front page.
You got to dig.
Yeah. There's a ton of good stuff on there. It's just
Well,
not easy to find.
Now that we've kind of revamped the format of Movie Madness here in the
Mm-hmm.
New England Clam Chatter family of podcasts, maybe we should go back to that idea of maybe picking a streaming movie every week we can talk about. Everybody
Yeah.
can watch it, and everybody can give their viewpoint on it. I know
Mm-hmm.
Cecil is hell-bent.
There's a few like of movies that I just absolutely love that are on Netflix that I don't even own yet, but like I know they're on Netflix.
You want to own them.
Yeah, I mean I will. I have a big like Amazon list of all the Blu-rays I want. That
Oh, do you?
I'm going through eventually. But
Now,
it's
do people
it
buy
grow-
them for
it-
you, or
No, I usually buy them. It grows
who do you
faster
give
than
the
I add
list
them.
to?
It's on my account. It's just for me to keep
oh,
track.
It's for your, I see what you mean.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
I thought you were like one of those maybe adult film stars. They have little wish lists that people
Gotcha.
like. I think Cecil may know someone that actually purchases these gifts
Oh, really?
to these stars, but that's a different story
Hmm.
for a different time than here on Neck. But I like the idea of
I do too, yeah.
of picking a streaming movie. Maybe we should have to, since you are Mr. Stream as far as I'm concerned.
I'm Mr. Stream with a Blu-ray collection.
Maybe you should pick
Bit
the
of a-
first one we can watch this week and look at next week.
Sure. One that comes to mind is Blue Valentine.
I have not seen Blue Valentine. And is
It's-
it a Netflix one, though?
It's not a Netflix exclusive, but it's on Netflix.
It's on Netflix, okay.
I think
I'm just
it's-
worried about everybody being able to access it.
Yeah. It's do you want me to like give you a basic kind of synopsis? Or do you
Yeah.
want do you want to be
Yeah.
blind? Okay, so it stars Ryan Gosling and Michelle Williams.
Okay.
It's a movie from 2010. It's half really sweet and romantic and genuine, and half really depressing and sad. And the concept of what they're doing becomes kind of obvious about around like hour in. Like they do this thing with time that I'm not gonna. It's better not knowing what they're doing, but like it's half really depressing and half super sweet, and then
Okay.
it goes like back and forth. So, and I think it's Ryan Gosling's best performance that I've
Really?
seen. He really transforms, I think.
Well, Cecil is going to have to send out the alerts to all the other cast members that are not with us this week.
Yeah, it's one of
They're
those
on
movies.
Netclot.
It's one of those movies where like you forget you're watching a movie because all the acting is so real. Like you just feel like you're watching real people. Like every single conversation, it doesn't feel like they're reading a script. It just feels like you're just an observer watching this real life thing happening. It's so real. That's the main thing. It's just real.
And you needed to emphasize that with an empty plastic cup.
Yes.
That's belief, brother. That's passion for the
That
movie.
is. That is. But yeah, like it
Do you-
really.
let me ask you this: do you think that John C. Riley of NECFAP will enjoy the movie?
I don't know.
Do you think he'd need, in case it's a little cool, he'd need to toss on the hoodie?
Maybe.
Maybe. All right.
But yeah, I've seen it like 3 times. It really grew on me. Like I liked it the first time. The second time I was like, okay, no, this is like I love this. And then I just
You needed
Yeah.
one more at
I
that.
needed one more.
How long?
Not like one day after another, but I kept wanting to revisit it because there was something there that I really liked.
That happened to me once with Home Alone.
Gotcha.
Back when you rented VHS tapes,
Mhm.
and I watched it probably 3 or 4 times over the 3-day rental. I enjoyed it so much, but
Do you know the movie The Place Beyond the Pines?
no.
Okay, it's the same director as that.
Is
Blue-
Home Alone?
No, Blue
No, right.
Valentine. Derek Cianfrance is his name.
A gentleman, I'm sure.
And this is a movie where like it's clearly a passion project, and you know that before you even look it up because like it's just good, and like ooh, scared you. And if you look on like the IMDb trivia and stuff, it's a movie that was like delayed for years and years and years because he wanted to wait till the circumstances were right. They delayed it like a year and a half because when Heath Ledger died, Michelle Williams was his ex-wife, and she had a kid with him, so he wanted to like let her have like a year to like
She
process.
was married to Heath Ledger?
Yeah.
Oh, I never knew that.
So he delayed the entire production just so she could like grieve and like get in a better state.
wow.
So you can tell he really cared about the movie, and it's like one of those. He wrote it like 10 years before it was made, and like this was like his baby, in a way, and then turned out really good, I think.
Well, we're going to have to tune up the band, so to speak. Everyone is going to need to watch a little Blue Valentine headed into the next episode.
It's probably the worst date movie.
Why is that?
You'll find out when you watch it.
Fair enough.
This is not a movie you watch with your significant other.
All right, well, I'm interested to see why now. I'm interested to see
Yeah.
why. Well, that, I think, is a good way to wrap up our look at Midsummer. We both liked it.
Went through all my notes.
I gave it a 7, you gave it an 8. And now move on to the other one that at least everyone has seen, maybe not together here, at least on this panel.
Yeah. Once Upon a Time in Hollywood.
I couldn't think of the name of it. Thank you. That was very good.
Yeah.
We saw it at Cecil the Lion's favorite place, the Coolidge Corner Theater. Have you ever heard of that?
I've heard of it, but I've
Yeah.
never been to it.
Well, it's nothing to write home about, let me tell you, brother.
Is it?
Once it was kind of fun. It was really a classic old school type place, but the concessions were atrocious and the seats not much better. The screen not that big. If you wanted to go for a throwback, an oldie but goodie,
Yeah.
that might be fun. But as far as something new, one man's opinion.
Give or
as we like
take,
to say.
yeah.
Give or take, yeah.
I don't have as much to say about Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. I liked it.
Why? It was a longer
I just
movie.
don't. I
You
just
should
don't have
more
as.
notes.
I just don't have as many thoughts
No.
about it. There was less that stuck out to me as like worthy of just like it's just it's. I guess it's really laid back for a Tarantino movie. There's not a lot of tension, as opposed to like every other one of his movies, especially Hateful Eight, where the entire thing is just.
I
like
liked
a,
Hateful
like a
Eight.
time bomb essentially. So it was less of like a singular plot and more just kind of vignettes from different characters that are kind of vaguely connected. I thought it was good though. I mean,
It was another one where I was not expecting what was presented. I thought it had something to do with the Sharon Tate murder.
well, it did.
It did?
Yes.
And what was that?
The whole end scene was like an alternate history version of what that was.
So that's what. So that was
yeah.
supposed to be what could have happened.
What happened was that in this version of history, the Manson family went to the house next door and not Sharon Tate, and Brad Pitt killed them.
And people other than you realize that?
Yes, it's really obvious. That's what everyone That's pretty obviously what they're going for, I think.
It was I liked the movie, but it wasn't what I expected.
Gotcha.
It wasn't what I expected by any stretch
Were you
of the
expecting more
imagination.
like action and kind of intense stuff?
No,
or?
as I sat through the movie, I kept wondering to myself, why are these Brad Pitt and Leonardo DiCaprio characters even in it?
Yeah, it's a lot less of like a main plot and more just kind of like a bunch of side plots.
I thought it was, if nothing else, it was going to play up what really happened, even if it was dramatized. You know what I mean?
Well, I mean,
I didn't realize it was going to have nothing to do with what really happened.
it did.
Well, like what you said, okay, but
It had like so much to do.
now was that Rick Dalton person real?
No.
He was made up too. So
Yeah.
she didn't have a neighbor named Rick Dalton.
No.
Okay.
And the whole scene where Brad Pitt goes to the ranch, that's Manson's ranch, right?
In real life?
Well, that's what that was implying. They're like, oh, we have to have him meet Charlie. Oh, we wanted to meet Charlie. Oh. And like he was suspicious of Bruce Dern's
But
character.
Was it a real ranch in real life or no?
Like the set?
Yeah.
Yeah.
They used Charlie Manson's old home.
I don't know about that, but that was
It was
supposed
to be it.
represent. Yeah.
Is that what it looked like? Do you know?
I have no idea. But
That's
like it was,
interesting.
I mean, you could tell just like if you know kind of the basic history that he had a bunch of like mostly female followers living on a ranch, and they talk about, oh, we want to have him meet Charlie. So it's like they didn't say it, but I mean, it was enough for me. And they had this, and there was the whole scene where Manson shows up at the house and doesn't say he's
Sharon Tate's house.
yeah.
I remember that. I didn't even know that was supposed to be Charles Manson until
Yeah,
after
it's
the fact.
it's subtle enough, but it was I don't know.
I didn't
kinda
have
got the
John
gist.
C. explaining the movie to me like I did Midsommer.
Well, I mean, the actor they got looks a lot like him.
I was borderline on that. As far as I thought he might have been a cult member. I didn't know it was supposed to be Manson himself. But
Before the swastika on the head.
he had that when he went to the door?
No, I mean in real life.
Oh, in real life, yeah. But
I'm
I
saying
mean, in the movie?
that was before. Yeah.
Oh, before he had it put on his head. I see what you mean.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I enjoyed it. It didn't bore me. It had a lot of,
A lot to say about like Hollywood.
yeah.
And
Yeah, I like the
whole
behind
act,
the
movie
scenes
star
type things. Yeah.
Yeah. Like-
Especially the old Hollywood and seeing what the, Dalton's career going down the tubes and him having to, toss his stunt double / assistant to the side. The Sharon Tate part, if they didn't have her in it at all until the end, I don't think it would have made much of a difference to me.
I think her scenes were kind of to illustrate the point of view of someone who's like on the upcoming, where Rick Dalton's on the decline. So it was showing those two stages in different careers and how she's, she goes to the theater and she's all excited to see herself in the theater, but then, when it shows Leo and Brad Pitt watching themselves on TV, they're just kind of sitting back and, just kind of shooting the shit and they don't really care because
Yeah.
they've been through
Yeah.
it all. They're on the decline. So it shows the two kind of states in different movie stars' careers.
Well, it's interesting you looked at it so different than I did.
Yeah.
Maybe you just paid more attention. I don't know.
Yeah, I'm pretty like laser focused.
Laser focus.
Unless the audience members fuck that up.
All right, but they weren't that bad with Midsummer.
They were annoying, but it could have
Yeah.
been worse.
What about what theater did you see Once Upon a Time in Hollywood in?
AMC.
Same one?
Yeah.
Somerville?
I saw it with Nick and another person.
Who was the other person?
Aeneas. She works at Hunt's.
Oh, really?
We know her from video. So
From the TV class,
Yeah.
you mean? Okay, well.
she's
Did
in,
Nick
like-
enjoy it?
he actually he did, but he fell asleep at like the worst moment. He fell asleep like on the scene where Leo's on the plane ride back. And he woke up when he was torching the girl in the pool. So he missed that entire buildup of that sequence and just woke up to him with the flamethrower. He's like, what the fuck did I miss?
He was a little startled.
Yeah.
He was a little, that's funny enough.
Yeah.
The theater we were on, it felt like the screen was so far away we needed an Uber to get to it. But
Yeah. That's how I feel with Revere. It's just
You think Revere is too big?
no, too small.
You think Revere is too why? Because they don't have many seats, or
No, the screen's too small. The sound quality is really bad.
you're big on the sound quality?
Oh yeah.
Big on the so that's why you're an AMC guy then. I look more at the popcorn, and I
Yeah.
have to think Revere has the better popcorn.
Sometimes the AMC speakers are actually too quiet.
Oh, really?
A lot of the times I wish they would just crank them way louder because first of all I wouldn't be able to hear the audience as much, and second of all it would be more immersive, and I can't like hear what they're saying sometimes.
Have you ever complained?
I mean, what are they gonna do? Listen to
Maybe
some
they'll
kid?
give you a
until-
free one.
Maybe. I did have an experience where the entire theater, not just mine, the entire AMC building lost power. So it was at Kong Skull Island, and it was like 3/4 of the way through the movie, right when the big ending action sequence is about to start, and the projector just stopped, and then it came back on and then stopped, and did that like 3
But, I mean,
times.
was it just the theater, or
It was the whole
The whole
every
building.
single theater. We didn't know what was happening, but when I walked out, it was everyone else in every other theater walking out. So it wasn't just my theater. So the projector stopped, and then for like 20 minutes, it kept coming on for like a minute and then stopping, and then like one by one, just people kept leaving and just getting more pissed, and then eventually the entire theater just evacuated, and they were handing out free tickets. So
well, I mean, you were entitled to that.
yeah, I should have
Or
gotten
a
2.
refund. Yeah, that's
one for
two.
this movie, one for the next.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Now you're talking.
Yeah.
Now you, but
But it was like a line of people just kind of, he was giving them out
Angry?
at enough time to say my piece.
annoyed.
Yeah.
All right. Well, so what would you give Once Upon a Time on a 1 to 10?
I'd give it a 7, which is a
think,
really good rating, I
I
think.
think I
It's
gave
positive.
it a 7 too.
Yeah.
I think I get when we were waiting for the train.
Didn't blow me away, but, a lot of Tarantino is really good at, structure and making really interesting scenes and grabbing your attention in long periods, long time spans. So
I wonder if I would have liked it more if I knew ahead of time it wasn't going to be anything like what real life was.
yeah, maybe if you knew more about.
Yeah.
I think since I had Inglourious Bastards in my head and what he did with that, so I was expecting that he was gonna do something insane with the Manson murders, kind of how he did with the Hitler thing. So I had that suspicion going in, so that's why I kind of expected it. So that's probably why we had different expectations.
For my good friend Kyle the Independent Nolan, for our friends Francia,
Fancina.
Mercy, Steve Swampscott, Nick, when he shows up in the middle of the shows, and especially the John C. Riley of Neck Fop. I'm Dan. We'll see you next time. Be well.